All right, and we're doing it. Slay 15. We're mixing things up. Slay 15.
All
No
right.
Shep today.
Okay.
Taking a day
Oh,
off.
that's okay. You have to
You
sometimes.
know, it happens. I don't believe today's a Monday, but we practice mental health 7 days a week.
Good.
Try to be about that mental health Monday every single day of the week. Um, we are talking about Cheap Thrills today. We got Jason Pankoke back with us.
Hey,
Uh, so Cheap Thrills. This is one of my
Cheap
all-time favorite
Thrills.
films, and this was your first time seeing it. So I'll
Yes,
let
I
you.
I had to get my version exposure to the cheap thrills of this movie. I'll lead in with a couple quick things and then tell you what I thought about this sick little puppy. I remember reading about it a little bit when it first came out. It's like you have certain distributors once they kind of get on the map, especially the indie ones like A24 is like the big so-called indie distributor. He had two or three labels back, roughly 10, 12 years ago, including when the Alamo Draft House chain got into movie distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this was one of their earliest titles, uh, which they put out, of course, at their own theaters and eventually, put out the Blu-rays and the DVDs and the streaming and all that. So there was a bit of hubbub for this movie, one, because it was one of their early titles, and two, because it was apparently good. But I never got around to seeing it. And then probably like January or February this year, I was in the local Dollar General. As a matter of fact, I'm not plugging the store. I'm just saying I was in Dollar General. And, of course, I'm going to eyeball usually the movies, occasionally the CDs. So then our movie here, it was like front and center in one of the rows. Oops, not that one. But this one. Other than the fact that I'm like, oh man, I could pick it up and finally watch it. It's like the movie was designed to show up in Dollar General. The blacks and the yellows. If you look at the sticker there,
and the price.
If that sticker shocked anybody, then go take a chill pill.
That is so funny.
So I was like, mine. So yeah. So I picked it up. Now, of course, I also have to admit that I have yet to actually open this copy. It's not like I'm saving it to put on eBay for like $2 to see if anybody will pick it up off of me so I can, get a buck off of it or anything. I just hadn't gotten around to it. I watched it through other means for the sake of the Slay.
So, I don't remember where I got my copy from. I may have even ordered it off the Draft House website when it came out because I was such a big fan of it after the first time I saw it. I think I had rented it at Family Video, maybe, when I lived down the street from a Family Video, and I watched it for the first time, and it blew me away. And I've got a Blu-ray copy of it that has some pretty neat artwork and little extras that came with it.
Okay.
But
yeah,
but the Dollar General thing, I mean, that's pretty great.
They had two or three copies. It's like I only need one. I did eventually go back just for kicks to see if like the other couple were there, and they kind of rotate them out and stuff, and they're gone. It's like okay. So I know I did get a couple of cell phone pics for funsies on the rack before I got it. I could definitely see. I don't know that seeing this in the theater would have increased or decreased my enjoyment of it. This is a sort of movie where it's the classic going cold, even if you can kind of sense where it's going to go with its, weird, scene after, episode after episode of what the characters do. I could say that it's a great movie where people are going to be clenching their teeth and clenching tight to the arms on their chairs by the time the movie's done. You're anticipating, which in that way, I guess it makes it akin to a horror movie in a kind of roundabout sort of way. So I definitely appreciated that. Okay, so we have our two leads here, Pat Healy and Ethan Embry. Apparently, friends growing up, at least in high school, went their separate ways,
Yeah.
happened to be in the same bar at the same time, and uh, both of them have not lived on the rich side of the tracks.
Yeah.
One's arguably trying to make a more honest attempt at an honest living than the other, but they're both doing the best they can. Of course, bad juju befalls Pat Healy's character. He's married with a 15-month-old toddler. I won't say what happens to him other than the relatable things, which is, exactly the sort of elements you bring into a movie like this, so that we're with the main character or characters even through the bad parts. And as the movie goes, it's increasingly bad to worse to what? They meet a couple at the bar. One's a very gregarious, kind of open, instant buddy feeling type of guy, played by David Ketcher. He's a classic kind of everyman character actor who we were watching the sitcom Bless This Mess with Dax Shepard, where they move out into the country and try to fix the humongo farmhouse. So I think he plays the husband and the couple that befriend them first in the show, and he's been in a ton of stuff. So he's there with his wife, played by Sarah Paxton, who I'm not that familiar with. And she seems very icy and aloof. She almost seems like are they husband and wife? Is she his girlfriend? Is she his daughter? She is a kind of interesting, constantly they're misdirect. She's always on her phone. And usually if you're on your phone, you're trying to distract yourself or not make eye contact or what have you. But it becomes clear later that it's part of their game. So they burst. The guy who seems to have an open wallet, which is never really explained how he got there. Maybe it's material. Kind of starts daring the guys to act out, and he's going to hand them $200 for this, $300 for that. And which eventually winds up with Pat Healy basically slapping the wrong character, a bouncer, and him getting knocked out. And when he comes to, they're in the couple's swanky house. I'm guessing was the Hollywood Hills. I thought it was LA.
I think. Yeah, I think they're somewhere in LA.
Yeah, so then it becomes weirder there upon stranger there upon kind of gross there upon
Yeah.
You can probably start to guess the type of uncouth things that the host, mostly the host, even though the hostess, it takes a while to understand how she actually is a part of the whole thing. So it's the main thing that I liked about it was that they really just kind of went for it. This is not a battle of the classes, social commentary type movie, even though it's kind of ingrained in there.
Yeah,
I think sometimes that's the most effective way to approach topics like that in a narrative, in an entertainment, is to the classic. You open up the characters as the movie goes along. You don't just dump exposition like your average cop procedure TV show just to get out of the way so you understand what's what.
That's a good point.
So I liked it. I think I'm not, especially since again, other than I guess you can take some things away from the borderline garish decoration of the house. Who are their neighbors? What does either of them even do for a living? How do they come upon the cash in the safe? How do they get to a point where they can freely play this
Mhm.
so-called party games with these two strangers and vice versa. You know?
Well, in a sense, it's kind of the best villains are the most mysterious, in horror movies, the
Mm-hmm.
ones you don't really know a whole lot about. And I think that kind of adds to the level of crazy and it's one of it's not in your face like these people are psychopaths. It kind of sinks in throughout the movie. You're like, these people are kind of nuts. They're rich, they're bored, and they're crazy.
Right. And they really, the one thing I was actually waiting for that, unless I totally missed it, especially with, again, the wife's name is Violet, her, which
Mhm.
is pretty darn close to violent. I'm sure that was not a mistake. Uh, you wondered if she actually was kind of detached for a while until it was kind of her turn to shine, so to
Mhm.
speak, because they've done this before with desperate people
Mhm.
that they find, and this is their kick and this is their thrill. Where the other guys don't have nearly enough luxury to have kicks and thrills and to throw money around. So there
Mhm.
that starts to set up a contrast between the two of them, and then when Embry and Healy's characters almost expectedly start getting at each other's throats and worse, um, then it's going to go down a more serious path.
Yeah.
Even though I did, it was one of those things where it's like the whole. It was really not a black comedy, but there are points where you had to laugh. Quick
Oh,
throwaway lines, especially by
yeah.
the husband, and when Healy's character will just say that he dips out and you think he's gone from the movie and then he's
Mhm.
back because in a weird off the wall way, he almost doesn't have a choice if he's going
Mhm.
to uphold what he believes is the right thing to do as a honest worker, even though he loses his job.
Right.
We'll spoil that. Um, and as a husband and as a new father. So the movie doesn't really give us time to be truly sad for them because
Mhm.
the two, um, but you can kind of see the wheels kind of working in their heads, and then they start coming off the tracks a little bit when logic
Mhm.
starts getting kind of tossed around the room like nobody's
Yeah.
business. Like no sane person would
Yeah.
go through that, but those two had their reasons for going through that.
Yeah.
So, so what endears this movie to you so much? Not endear,
Well,
but I mean, as far as being effective and being something you really want to share with everybody.
like I said, I this was one of those things that I don't know if you even watched the trailer before you watched this, but I did. I saw the trailer before I saw it for the first time, so I kind of knew where it was going with the whole, oh, I'll pay you this much and you'll do this, and it just kind of
Mm-hmm.
escalates, and so I at least knew that much going into it. And like I said, I believe I rented it at Family Video and I watched it for the first time, and just everything about it. It's just I feel like I hadn't really seen anything like it. Um, it I just love this grounded feel to it. It's just such a
Mm-hmm.
grounded story. It's so you can really relate to the characters even when things are just at their most absurd. I feel like it's a movie that you understand a majority of the motives here. Uh, the performances as well are some of my favorites. Pat Healy is one of my favorite actors, and
Mm-hmm.
he's been in so much. He's been in so much, and I think this movie is just a great example of just some of the things he can do. I've seen him play good guys, bad guys. He was in this excellent show on Amazon called Them, uh,
Okay.
as a racist neighbor in that, and he was menacing as hell in it. He's in the MCU. He was in Captain America: Winter Soldier very briefly,
Mm-hmm.
but he is in it. So this guy's all over the place. I believe it was in the commentary on the Blu-ray. He was talking about the scene where we do also to free you. We are spoiler happy here. We are supportive
Oh, okay.
of that here at the Slays. When we get into it, we let everybody know. Uh,
Okay.
we'll get into some stuff, but the scene where he decides that he's gonna lop off his pinky. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
when he filmed that scene, Pat Healy was talking about how, as an actor, that was one of these moments for him that was like transcendent. I mean, he had this moment where he thought he just did the best acting of his life. Like, really got into that moment of putting his fist against the iron and just the drool and the spit and the tears
Right.
and only to find out that the camera wasn't rolling or something to that effect. Um, and he had to do it all again.
Uh,
So the take we see in the movie is not that transcendent experience that he had.
well, you do have
But
to wonder now uh, if they were just that much more slap happy. The three of them in the kitchen during that scene having to redo it because that was one of those classic kind of just high black comedies. Like you're really teasing the audience and like little red herring after red herring after pause after pause. It's just like if he's gonna do it with the mop off the pinky, let it happen. You want the catharsis of because you think it's coming, given the nature of the movie. By that point, it's probably coming. Who's gonna do it? Is it gonna happen? Blah blah blah. And then of course, the timing and the editing of that scene as it was completed was pretty textbook, given the misdirection with the dialogue and ping ponging between the characters, and then boom, it's like, oh god.
yeah, and then it just ramps up from there.
The weird thing is, I just wanted to put out that I purposely didn't look at anything about this movie before I finally watched it this week. I probably did see the trailer. Like I do vaguely remember reading 2 or 3 reviews on it in the trade papers, like the Hollywood Reporter and all that. But it was purposely so I could go in as fresh as possible, even on the movie.
Which is not a bad way to see this movie, I think.
Right, right.
It's definitely full of surprises to somebody who doesn't know what they're getting themselves into.
The weird
and this time
thing
around,
is that even though there's,
you go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, there's really no parallel, but well, I guess if you wanted to psychoanalyze it, but when he comes back in the house to continue the games, when you think he's tapped out, and no sane person would blame him for tapping out even at that point, which it looked extreme, and it really wasn't as extreme as what comes after. But and we see him standing there, kind of, the beady eyes with his jaw clenched, bar none. I had to flash back to the look of Michael Douglas in Falling Down, that Joel Schumacher movie from the early '90s, where he's kind of an everyman, middle management or whatever, and then. But the poster of him standing on this heap of rubble with a shotgun, dressed, with like the white collar outfit, the white button down shirt and the tie and the slacks. Not that Healy's character was even that elevated as far as his job status and that sort of thing, but just that whole, it's implied that both guys really probably have been knocked down multiple times in their relatively young lives.
Yeah.
Again and again and again. And this was their weird, perverse way of actually stepping up a little bit. It's unfortunate what they have to do. But
yeah. And that's kind of that groundedness of it. And this time around, I noticed that you really are, in a sense, seeing Pat Healy's character's day in real time. Because the movie opens with him in bed with his wife, leaving, going to work, and the movie ends with him coming back home that next morning. And I didn't really realize that till this viewing. but I feel like to anybody who's ever lived paycheck to paycheck in their life and struggled with paying the bills and stuff like that, this movie would be very relatable. This character is very relatable. Um, for anybody who's ever had a friend like Ethan Embry's character in this movie, he's just the kind of guy that as soon as he walks in the room, you're like, oh Jesus, this guy, he just has a little too much energy for you.
Right.
It kind of has always been that trouble, like the kid who mom's like, hey, don't hang out with that kid. He's a bit much. He's gonna
Right.
get you in trouble.
You
And I
do.
think,
I think you do think at a couple of points in the movie that he's actually in on it. Again, there's no overt
yeah,
things thrown at you by the filmmakers in the way that they um, treat. I mean, obviously, at a certain point, it becomes clear that he's been, as
right.
clueless
Just as
to the
yeah,
party games as
right,
Pat Healy's character is.
yeah.
But you do
Well, and that
wonder
was
if
another
this
like
was
subtle thing.
a grander scheme, at play here.
Yeah, with the slideshow that she plays at the end, once you
Hmm.
realize what she's
Hmm.
been doing on her phone the whole time, she did the same
Hmm.
thing as that Apple commercial that came out a few Christmases ago, where the little girl's on
Okay.
her phone the whole holidays, and then at the end, after everybody thinks she's just a rude little girl, she plays this sweet little film she made of her family. They're like, "Oh, Christmas is over. You missed it." Uh, but and I noticed this time around when it's showing the images, it kind of like some of the images you're seeing are before they ever even started talking to these guys. So they clearly
Right.
picked them out the moment they walked through the door. As soon as they saw
Hmm.
these two guys, and like you said before, this is probably not the first time they've done this, probably will not be the last. So they probably know the types that they're looking for. They know them to see them.
Yeah. If you do watch, there was an interesting study of when her character does this, but when Sarah Paxton's character is very purposely stone faced through a lot of it,
Hmm.
and but she loosens up more towards the end, not just when she gets it on with Pat Healy's horse schlub, but I mean, they get off on this. These games, and
Right.
maybe to them the thrill is what will these horse amps do
Hmm.
for their perverse
Right.
entertainment, I guess.
Which is one of those
Um,
concepts that's in quite a few horror movies. Like Hostel is rich people paying to torture poor people, stuff like that. We've
right.
seen the concept of the rich using the poor for their entertainment plenty, but that's where this movie for me is set aside because it just feels so grounded. It feels so real. It doesn't feel dystopian to me. It feels like this could be happening in LA
No,
tonight.
it's like there really is not. I said this before. It really does not play up a division of place in society or class. Where you land, I guess, on the total pole of
Hmm.
a society like ours. The two things I did appreciate about it was that there were two things I was kind of wondering if they were going to get like kind of shoehorned in later on. One was especially with the safe holding the money. Of course, eventually, the wife is brandishing a gun. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, is this going to turn into some sort of backdoor crime movie or a mafia movie? Especially given the whole Pinky sequence.
Right.
You can't help but think of mobster movies, then and now, where your comeuppance is you lose a body part or something,
Hmm.
or someone close to you, or something to kind of bring you back into line. The other thing is, I really liked that both David Ketcher and Sarah Paxton mostly kept the lid on their characters. They could have turned instantly cartoonish at any time throughout the
Hmm.
movie, and really they don't.
Well, and
That
that's
could have
why,
been a real temptation
yeah,
by the filmmakers to let them, even have their couple of token moments of going, full on, verbally not so whatever, but it never happens. It never happens,
Yeah,
and that helps with the groundedness that you've been talking about. Yeah.
I feel like the more intense in your face moments work as well as they do for me because of all of the subtlety in the rest of the film. It's
Hmm.
not overt, like you said. There's not exposition. It doesn't feel the need to explain things. It drops you into this character's life, and you're living it along with them for the next hour, 45 hour, 20 minutes, whatever it is.
Hmm.
But and David Koechner being one of those actors who's in so many comedies. We've seen him in Anchorman, the parody
Hmm.
movie The Comebacks. I think of him in that all the time. And so he can get cartoonish, and it was
Right.
really cool to see him in a role like this, because I
Yeah.
really thought this was probably one of his best performances ever. I mean, I enjoy him in all this other stuff, but
Right.
he's an enjoyable comedian. This was the first time I really got to see him as something other than that. Even though he's still really funny, he does provide a lot of the laughs, like you were saying. There at the end of the movie, even in the most intense moments, it's just those little lines like when the dog dies and he goes, "How the fuck did that happen?" Just that throwaway, like, come on, man.
Yeah. Oh God. It's like again, my brain was playing to a genre convention when they start hearing the noise. My instant reaction was, "Oh God, they got his kid," which would have been near impossible because they were together pretty much the whole movie. I'm like,
Right.
because that's a classic trope. The bad people or the off the rocker people somehow have someone out there go get the family member or whatever and bring them in at a perfectly timed interval to really challenge, you know,
Yeah.
the main character or characters to make choices
Yeah.
as they were. But no, it's the
What's
damn dog. I was like, oh,
I,
poor dog.
what's kind of interesting as well is, again, like those other movies uh, that do kind of, the rich are just using their money to entertain themselves, pitting people against each other, and um, this is a situation where they are genuinely not holding these people against their will. They are genuinely. It's a game. It has rules. If you want to go, you're free to go. You just got to play by the rules. We'll give you this money, and it really is as simple as that for them. They are truly free to go. They're going to be really bummed out about it, clearly, but to them, it's truly like
Right.
playing a game, just as much as somebody would walk away from a board game upset. It's just pretty good.
Yeah. And the fact that they don't belabor the rules.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
he's going to make up whatever they are. And
Right.
he
When he
put
punches him in the stomach and he goes, he cheated. I didn't
right.
set any rules. Those were the first
And
words out of his
that's
mouth. I didn't set any rules.
and that's right. That's right. He didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, I dug it. I think it's not a movie that I would go right back to watching. I think it's one you have to kind of let it marinate a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, One that really doesn't court too deep into it. I think it's a good example of the filmmakers know the movie they're making, no
Mhm.
bones about it. It's pretty much it's all right there as far as character
Mhm.
motivations. What's leading the characters from point A, B, C, D until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Certainly, there are a couple of unanswered questions. Who's going to clean up what, among
Right.
things. Um, but oh yeah, but I could just imagine there's enough tension throughout the movie that it would have been a fun theatrical watch.
Mhm.
Um, you know, so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad I got to see it finally. So
Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
so
Yeah.
so yes, I wanted to ask you. So how does Cheap Thrills rate as a 31 days or however many slays of Halloween movie? Again, like I said earlier, there are aspects to it that are akin
Mhm.
to more, uh, traditional, thrillers and slashers and stuff.
Mhm.
And I guess the torture horror stuff like Hostel.
So
So what do
why
you?
why why choose it to be a sleigh?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's a movie I genuinely look forward to watching in October, just because of how dark it is,
Mhm.
uh, and there are horror-esque elements to it. Um, just the desperation of these people is very palpable, and the limits to which they go are insane. And
Right.
during October, with a lot of our lineup, we try to get some classics in and everything, and sometimes we got to pepper in something unique, something that's a little off the wall. Even when we did our 25 Slays,
Hmm.
we said horror, but we did Fat Man with Mel Gibson as one of them. There were slays, people were dying,
Yeah.
and Christmas
Okay.
was involved. It was off the
Okay.
wall. One of these years, we might include Die Hard in that. It's not technically a
Sure.
horror movie, but it counts as a slay. So this is in
But
the
it,
more
but
in the
is it,
thriller
but is Die
range.
Hard technically a Christmas movie? That's what everybody wants to know. Still, I
Of
really
course,
don't care. It's Die Hard. Come on. Yeah. And for people who either like / love or loathe Saw movies, or
Mhm.
the more recent kind of subgenre of horror films that are like the torture puzzle
Mhm.
movies. This has a little bit of that, but it's almost an antithesis to the bigger and better every sequel. The traps and the puzzles and all that sort of
Mhm.
thing. Here, I mean,
It's kind of like
really,
David Koechner's character kind of broke it down in that one scene. He described it. He said it's just like a reality game show, just we're not on
mhm.
TV.
Yeah, it's want, need, and desperation. There's the relatable things as humans. We try to keep some aspects of personalities and emotions and stuff in check, just because that's kind of what's expected of us. But when the beast is unleashed, even the meekest, the meek. In this
Mhm.
case, the meek kind of inherited the earth,
Yeah.
sort of, not really, not
This
really.
film has one of my favorite like last shots of all time. Just
I
that.
was wondering if they were going to even go that far. Again, storyteller maybe want to play it safe, but it ended at the cab.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Um, you do. I actually was thinking 2 or 3 times if he even gets out of this, because of course you get to a point where you think, are they going to die?
Hmm.
Um, if the main character, Pat Healy's, um, you know, oil inspector, garage
Yeah.
worker, Porsche Love gets out, starting with his wife. How the hell does he explain all this?
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like I think he took home way more than he thought he did. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think when you come home with $250,000, uh, it's going to be a lot easier to explain with the $250,000 why you did what you did, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like $15,000 that you would have left with in the first place. So
Especially if his friend's blood winds up on the bills along with his own. Who knows
yeah,
who would even get that
yeah.
far to test
But
that?
just the him in center frame holding the baby, just beaten to hell, bloody, all the money piled on the couch, the toys strewn on the floor, and then just hitting it with the title. I loved it ever since the first time. I always anticipate the ending of this movie just to see that frame. I love it.
So yeah, I would recommend it. You need to have a little bit of a stomach for
Mhm.
some of it. Um, there is some like very quick rat-a-tat throwaway stuff, dialogues and all that will catch you off guard.
Mhm.
Um, if you have a slightly darker sense of humor, you'll definitely get some laughs out of it.
Yeah.
Even though the situation at its core really is not funny, it's kind of sad in weird ways. Um, it's like it's the whole how low can you go?
Um,
Mhm.
I think something that really adds to this movie and the performances is the way the conditions in which it was shot under. They shot it in 12 days,
Okay.
and Ethan Embry and Pat Healy did not get along, and that was mostly. I feel like it
Oh,
was a situation where Ethan Embry kind of stayed in character, and he was constantly in the movie when you see him slapping him all the time and like hitting him on the back real hard and stuff. That's all real. That's
mhm.
really Ethan Embry just doing that to him all the time. And so watching it this time around, I really noticed. I mean, these are genuine reactions from Pat Healy, just annoyed as shit with Ethan Embry
Oh
every
yeah.
time getting hit and everything. And uh, I did read today that apparently they made amends uh, after the movie, but they did not get along during the filming of this. But I think that definitely added to the the groundedness of this entire movie. Absolutely.
I don't know. Should we wrap things up?
Yeah, I guess the last but not least, if you had to give it a
Okay.
score out of 10,
I was going to give it a 7, but now that we've talked it through a little bit, I'm going to give it an 8. Um, again,
good.
I really dug it.
I
I
couldn't
think
come
it's a
back any
movie
less than
that
an 8.
I you have to kind of just let it do its thing, and its purpose will make itself known to you as far as again the what and the why of all the characters in the room. Um, as you said earlier, it's nice that they didn't spell out everything and give all the background and that sort of thing. The small part of me wanted to know a bit more about the husband and wife characters. On a surface level, where the hell did they get the money? It was immaterial given the night that plays out here. Um, but maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the whole point is there's just a disconnect between the husband and wife and the two blue collar workers, and as we learn, there's disconnect between them as well, as far as their philosophies of life and what they really think of each other. So
Yeah,
8 out of 10. I dug it.
good deal. I'm gonna go 9 out of 10 myself. It's
Okay.
one of my all-time favorites. I think I think you can even see in summer camp some of the influence as far as shooting style goes, just with the cinematography here. I just enjoy the handheld look that just kind
Mm-hmm.
of adds to the chaos of things a little bit. Some of the close-ups as things just kind of amp up and get wilder. Uh, and I've always just liked the look of this movie as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
It's
yeah,
it's a good study in single locate for the most part, single
hmm
location shooting.
yeah,
It's kind of one of the filmmakers. If you're going to do a feature, especially in a super low budget, get a main
mhm,
set that you have access to and can do what you need.
yep,
And I thought they were very economical in how they used that house and the different rooms. And really,
definitely.
there's just so much tension going on between all the characters. It's like, uh, you know, there is no downtime in this movie. It's 87 minutes, and it
Mhm.
uses every minute to get to the end point for everyone. So, uh, good job, good job.
Good job. It's a good one. I'd recommend as well if you've never seen it. It's got surprises. It's got uh, thrills, uh, and apparently you can get it as cheap as $1 if you want to own it. So doesn't the thrills don't get any cheaper than that?
Emily, okay. Oh
Well,
man. Okay. Yep. There we go. So look carefully, and you'll find our friends here for $1. As I told Shep before we started recording, where was that hair on that poor guy? They were shooting the movie. Um, Obviously, publicity shots done before it actually came out. Oh, there we go. Cheap thrills. Okay. So now, of course, I'm gonna finally crack this motherfucker open and watch all the extras because I'm curious about all
there you go.
the behind the
It's
scenes stuff.
definitely,
So,
yeah, it's got some interesting behind the scenes tidbits. So uh, thanks for joining us again. Me again,
my pleasure.
since Shep isn't here.
Yes,
Uh,
Chef. Peace.
yep.
Cool. I'm glad to be on. I'm glad I got to see something definitely different. People who know me know that I like my movies a bit different, if not a lot different. So this definitely fit the bill.
Well, good deal.
and I thought it was well done.
They'll do it for Slay 15. Peace.